Well, hey everybody, I'm back. I just wanted to do a real quick video on the last video we did with Node-RED, the introduction to the next available IP assignment, and to show you a breakdown of the debugging. I think it's interesting, and it might be interesting to some of the developers of really what's going on and describing that payload and what it looks like. So as you recall, the new IP request is basically a get parameter passing in the VLAN ID, state, and quantity. And so in our very first object we see up here, we're going to see those basic parameters as they're extracted from the get node that we sent the request onto. And you'll also notice as I highlight the node up here, the node ID, that it wraps around an indicator as to which debug node in the output is assigning this code. So you can go back and see where in the process the debug is assigned effectively. And also in your debug, just note that any one of these nodes can have a debug node wrapped around it. So if I wanted to add additional debugging, I could just wrap those anywhere in the process. And lastly, for the debug, before we get moving forward, it can be a payload debug, meaning only what the next flow sees, from the input of one node to the output, what that specific output is. Or you can tell it to complete the whole message object, including any private variables, things that might be set and copied into those from your code or others. So I usually do the complete because I like to see everything again, but if you're programming and troubleshooting, you can do it the other way. Okay, so that's how that translates here. And then you can enable and disable these by clicking the tabs. Right? Now the thing with this is, and also take note, make sure you do this on change controls and things if this is in production, that when you enable and copy these nodes, of course you need to deploy those changes. So that will interrupt it for a second, whatever your process is, just be cognizant of that. So really, you can do anything you want to, and then you can also name these, and I recommend doing that if you're trying to, or if you have a lot of message output. This will help you track it down to, like get, we'll do GLAN ID from URL debug. And so every time I see this debug now, it'll be named that way in the output, like right here. Node get, so when you see the naming, you'll see that here. Right? So what happened effectively is once we had those details, and in the VLAN debugging, we then had a payload. And what this payload was effectively doing then is creating input IP addresses that we're seeing for all of this. So I'm not debugging everything. I wasn't debugging everything. But what I was debugging was the actual IP addresses that were being assigned. So the first thing that we'll see in this debug is each one of these is an individual IP address that was part of the assignment. I also copied the entire block array into an array, if you recall in our last video. And that block array has all of the details, that it may be duplicate or may be different, of all of the number of hosts assigned and all of the details about that block. So each one of these blocks matches up to one of those available subnets that we were determining, and also based on the choice in this list. So this one pulled out either the first one assigned or one of these. It may have been the last one even. But one of these qualified for that assignment or came back in the assignment process first. And this is the way it was stored there. And 7.0 seems to be the one there. So then each of these is just another, again, IP address. Each one's a separate payload. So as it assigned it, each one was there. And then it actually put that information back into a joined array, which is later into the payload. Okay, so I think this a little further down, and just maybe one of these two others. Okay, and so lastly, when we got down into the payload here, we joined all of this information back together, and this is effectively what it had done. So it joined all of the IP addresses after it had gotten those, each one being a task, joined them back, and then this is what that looks like in the array, showing us effectively what was assigned. All right, so some of this is kind of how that works. So you can really navigate down into the responses, really see what's happening. And then they also have little tools here to help you capture the path of those variables if you're looking to copy and paste this in your JavaScript. So really some cool things there. But I thought I wanted to do a quick one on the debug just so you can see what some of that output looks like, how it's invoked, and then how you can enable and disable it moving forward. All right, everybody, I'll be back a little bit later. I think I have a few more things to show. But for that, this will be a good quick one. Thanks.